Hey there, everybody. Matt Carter here from CarterMatt.com.
And Jessica Carter, also from CarterMatt.com.
And this is your NCIS Season 16, Episode 22 review for the episode entitled And Executioner. I feel like you got to say it like that in order for it to really be effective.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, and then
Because that's how Judge Dredd says it.
This entire episode is basically Coco Vanderwolf's actually asking for a transfer at the moment. That is basically the Judge Dredd tribute hour that is this show. I really liked this episode.
Yeah, it was fun. Well, I also really like Judge Dredd in general, and that sort of idea of the vigilante justice, and this time it's an actual judge going out and you know, getting it, a whole group of them. It was neat.
It was a cool idea. I think it played out well, and you know, I'm not trying to be the ultimate NCIS cheerleader because I don't think every episode of the show is necessarily great, but this has been a great run these past several weeks. I think we've got a lot of good stuff to talk about. It's kind of serialized, you know.
Yeah, it's been really serialized. I know that it has been in the past as well, but not recently, the past couple seasons.
Yeah.
This season, though, it's been good.
Yeah, it's been nice to actually have like something that matters from one week to the next week to the next week, and it seems like that's really going to happen with Gibbs. So
this build-up with Gibbs is magic. They're doing such a good job with this.
Yeah, and there's a lot to break down and a lot to talk about in this video. And before we really get going here any further, if you like what you're hearing, give us a like and subscribe to CarterMatt on YouTube. We also have some really good NCIS coverage that you're going to want to check out, including an article preview for what is coming up on the next new episode. We will have a link to that in the description below. And also a recent video that Jessica and I did about Ziva theories, both at the end of this season, what could be coming up next. I mean, I guess we'll just talk about it here. Unfortunately, not really a lot of movement on the Ziva front in this episode tonight.
No, but I didn't expect it to. These past two episodes have been linked, and there wasn't last week. I expected there wasn't this week. You know, I'm okay with that. It's, you know, I would like to see, of course, the story continue, and I feel like it's still going to, but this is NCIS, and as serialized as it's been this season, it's still NCIS, so there are still going to be times when, you know, it's not every single episode. It's the way it is, and that's fine.
Yeah, we got to deal with it sometimes, and, you know, I'm starting to really temper my expectations for any more Ziva stuff for the rest of the season. I think maybe we'll get something in the finale, maybe, but it just doesn't feel like that's the direction we're going now.
I'm going to disagree with you. I feel like there will be something in the finale.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be like a big, huge, you know, here she is and surprise or anything like that. Like, I feel like they're not going to overshadow what's happening with Gibbs and Fernell and his daughter and all of that. That is the big finale, and I don't think they're going to overshadow it, but I think there will be something, some tiny little cliffhanger, little nugget, little cookie trail that's going to bring us to Ziva Town next season.
I hope that you're right. I really, really do. And I think that there could be something. I don't think it's going to be huge, but I think there could be something. And trust us, if there is, we will be here for you. We will get through all of it together, all of our emotions.
We are here for it.
Happiness, sadness if it's not there, anger, bargaining.
Oh,
okay.
I'll be really salty. I've been on this train, and I feel like we're going on this train. If there's not even just I don't need a lot. I just need something to know that this is continuing on next season. If there is not anything, there's going to be the saltiest finale review ever. So be warned.
This is like those episodes of like Hell's Kitchen when Gordon Ramsay just tastes something and it's really salty and just throws the plate. I don't know if he actually did that. I'm kind of making it up. But
no,
anyway.
but he does like the smash fish with his hands.
Yeah.
And, you know, we won't do that, but
it's on brand.
I will be.
Yeah, a lot of that going on. All right, well, let's talk about And Executioner, which really we didn't do a review video for last week's episode either. So this is kind of like a combined video review, which makes sense. These two episodes are linked. I think the obvious big takeaway that came from all of this is NCIS bringing back Hernandez and what Gibbs did to kill him so many years ago, as you know, as a result of what happened to Shannon, to Kelly, his family. Yeah. This was a big deal. Are you surprised that so many years removed from this, NCIS went back to this, and they really didn't, they didn't give you too much of an indication that this was even coming before today.
Yeah, I really wasn't, I wasn't expecting it. I've seen some people online that were saying, did they really need to bring this up again? Let's move on to something else. But when you've lost, your family like that, you lose a child, it never leaves. So am I, was I a little surprised that it came up now? A little bit, but, am I surprised that he's still thinking about it and dealing with it? No, that's something that will stick with him forever. He will, I don't think he thinks about it every day. Maybe he does. But it's something it's never gonna leave him. So it made sense for this particular plot for it to come up that if the judge wanted to take this head out on Gibbs, he had to have a reason for it. Now, having a vigilante taking out another vigilante, and it was, we joke about this. It's Judge Dredd, and if you don't know Judge Dredd, that's basically what Judge Dredd is. Like the Punisher, taking their own vigilante justice out on people that got away with murder.
Yeah.
So, but in this case, it's like Judge Dredd is taking out Daredevil or Punisher or Iron Fist or another vigilante. He's taking out Batman. It doesn't make a lot of sense where, I'm going to take out these bad guys for murdering people. Well, you're also murdering people, and you're a vigilante, and you're going to take out another vigilante. That was the only part that I was kind of like, meh. It's really more about Gibbs is getting too close, and that's a problem.
I just think that, I don't think this bothered me, mostly just because the judge was desperate and he was reeling. And I feel like if you're desperate and you're reeling, you're going to tell yourself whatever sort of crazy nonsense you need to tell yourself in order to do what you got to do. And I think he just didn't really even care, even though we did have that conversation. And I love this conversation. This is one of my favorite supervillain conversations, when you get the bad guy and the good guy in the same room, and they're like, you and I, we're kind of the same. It's like this happens in 80% of all comic book movies, and I'm always here for it. And we get that moment with Gibbs and Judge Deacon, which I never want to call him Judge Deacon. I really just want to call him Judge Dredd.
Yeah, but, he is. Well, we'll call him that for the video.
Yeah, he can be Judge Dredd, but we kind of had that moment, and I think he recognizes the fact that, he's being a vigilante, taking out a vigilante, but I just don't think that he cares because his butt is on the line.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that was fine, and I get why he was doing it, but it was just kind of interesting to see, a Judge Dredd taking out a Batman. They are both doing it for different reasons, but they're both taking justice into their own hands.
How much would you have loved it if at one point before this judge was arrested, Gibbs looked at him and said, "You have failed this city"? Had to do an Arrow reference.
Yeah, no, that would have been great.
But also, one other random jokey thought of the day. How impressive was that bowling alley? I understand he's a terrible guy, but...
goodness, it's pretty impressive. I'm not a bowler, but I would bowl there.
Yeah, I know. In between him and Gibbs, there's such a fascination with woodwork on NCIS.
Well, the whole aesthetic of the diner and the old school bowling alley, it just felt like I was in some sort of kind of 50s, 60s vibe there. I was really enjoying it. I'm a really big 50s, 60s kind of freak, so it was cool to see that feeling in this episode.
Yeah, it felt very nostalgic, and I guess that probably was a part of it, to try to make it almost like this weird sort of Hitchcockian thriller in some aspects of it as we kind of unravel everything that's going on. I'll tell you my biggest surprise from this episode, and that's, I thought for sure that they were going to make Mitch Pileggi, my guy, Win Crawford, the bad guy, because he had the bank account in his name. And Mitch Pileggi just looks like he's going to play a villain every time. Just look at the guy. He's bald, and not even balder than me. He's got the beard that he can scratch.
What are you telling me about yourself here?
I'm not a villain. That's why I'm shaving my head. I'm not completely bald. But he's got the look of, they're going to make me play a bad guy now, aren't they? But He's in the clear. Mitch Pileggi.
No, that was good.
Yeah, actually a good guy. He even gave Vance the coin.
Yes, Vance.
You're a big Vance fan.
I love him. I just love him. I don't know how to explain him, why I love him, but I love him. I love Rocky. I love that character. So it was good to see him getting the pat on the shoulder, and and he didn't fall for that Mallory crap. So it was, I get that he was struggling with that. He's so good, and it's been great to have this material with him this season.
Vance is too pure for this world. I think that is the thing we're starting to realize. I
just love him.
He still wanted to believe in Mallory for so much of this.
But he knew, because he's smart. I love him. I love him.
You really do love Vance. I think I'm realizing you're loving Vance in this video even more than I was aware. But all the stuff with Vance was pretty good. It was also real. It got us some good Vance Sloane conversations.
Well, it was very real. Yes, she screwed him over and she was doing all this stuff to him, but they did have a relationship for a while before he really figured out what was going on. So his feelings are still very real, and it was interesting to see him struggling with that. That's okay, I know that this happened to me, and I know that she did this thing, this horrible, horrible thing to me, but the feelings are still there. And that's something that's very relatable in real life. When somebody does you dirty, but you're still I still have these feelings. They don't just disappear because somebody does you wrong. So that was a cool thing to see him struggling with Vance.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that, it's going to be good for Vance to move on. Maybe you can find Vance a new love interest in season 17, get him some other stuff. But it's let the Mallory stuff, I feel like it's done now. We've gotten the full scope of the story. Mallory was at least, useful in making sure that Judge Dredd was taken down effectively because of the power of that necklace.
Yep.
So, we know all that is kind of done.
That Vance gave her. Vance.
Okay, I'll stop that now. Vance is really behind everything on this show. Vance is
right.
The puppeteer.
He's the real Batman.
Sure. Whatever you need to tell yourself. Okay, so now...
Stop it.
Yeah, okay, all right. No, let's talk about the big revelation that happened with Gibbs actually telling the other agents about Hernandez and what he did so many years ago. Because this is obviously a very, very big deal. This is Gibbs opening up his soul. Gibbs' soul is usually a vault that no one gets to access. I don't think he had much of a choice, but
he tried. He said nope, and he left. But no, that wasn't gonna happen. So
yeah, what did you think about this moment?
It was good. I think that he got it out there. He is changing a lot this season. He is opening up more. He is changing his own rules. I think it's going to be good for Gibbs and good for us to watch Gibbs changing and growing. It's 16 seasons in so far, so I want to see continuous growth and to see that at any point in your life you can make those changes, and I like that.
Yeah, I think it was a good moment for him. I think it's an important moment for him. I think it's a conversation. Everybody seemed to take it in all right. I think the best part of it was just kind of the stunned reactions everyone had. Nobody knew what to do with themselves.
Yeah, but I mean, on a personal level, I think them as agents, that they were all probably thinking, well, what if I was in Gibbs' situation? Could I have done the same? Would I have done the same? The person I was thinking the most about was McGee, whose wife, 2 little babies, I was just thinking about him, wondering, would he kind of be in the same spot? Is he thinking, man, would I do the same thing? It was a really interesting scene.
It was, and I think the reaction to them in the end, where we see them outside the courthouse, and effectively the decision is kind of made that they're just going to drop it, not really ever bring it up and talk about it again. I mean... Yeah,
it felt like, okay, we get it.
Yeah.
This is something Gibbs has opened up to us about. We don't need to harp on him about it. This was a decision that he made, and he made it in extreme circumstances. They may all be sort of thinking the same thing. Would we have made that choice? We don't know. So should we judge him? No. That is for Judge Dredd, who is going to jail.
This is the most comic book heavy episode in NCIS history. We have Batman, we have Judge Dredd, all this stuff's going down. But we also have...
And Vance.
Well, I thought Vance was Batman.
That's right.
Okay, so we have it's here...
Like Bruce Wayne. And...
They're all mixed in there together. We also have I really feel like if McGee... I don't know. I kind of want to see McGee have another conversation about this in some shape or form, because I talked about this in the preview video. McGee has known Gibbs for a huge part of his life, probably the majority of his adult life at this point.
Yeah.
And, he's been a mentor, and now he's just figured out this huge bit of information that Gibbs has kept from him for years. I think it's probably easier if you're Bishop or if you're Torres to move past this because you haven't known him as long, but... Even if you understand, and I think McGee understands where Gibbs is coming from, do you think that he might still feel hurt that he just didn't know?
I don't, because it's murder. So, maybe he wouldn't want to tell McGee, and I think McGee might understand that someone may not want to tell somebody something like that, especially since Gibbs does live by his own rules for his stability, and he is a good man, and he is the hero. That's not something that you would want to tell somebody. What I like about it is that Gibbs and McGee's relationship too is changing. They have been growing over the years, and it has been changing all this time. But in the past couple episodes, we've seen McGee basically send him home. You're off the team. He's been the leader over Gibbs. Now we're seeing this other really serious thing come out. I like that it's bringing out these different things in them. Their relationship is going to grow from it.
And I hope that it does, and I hope that it does lead to some sort of further conversation. I want McGee to be okay. I think that's the thing, and I feel like it's going to be a lot.
I feel like he will be.
I think it's going to be a lot for him to take in, that this, like, he's got a paradigm shift in his head, even if he understands where Gibbs is coming from. But I think all of this sort of stuff, it does set the stage for some interesting sort of discussions moving forward, because if you're Gibbs now, like, how do you recover from this? Because even if they do understand collectively, what you did and why you did it, you still have to, you walking into the office every day with all of them knowing this, like, dark secret of yours. Like, how do you think that changes him?
I think a lot of it's just going to depend on how they act around him. If they start treating him differently, then he'll probably get in his head about it. When I think this might come up again is in that finale, where we're looking at Fernell and stuff is going down with his daughter, and Gibbs now, the secret is out there. So that's kind of when I think, if you're talking about McGee and how he might be dealing with it and his own connections to his own family, that might be when it's gonna start to bubble up to the surface a little bit.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense, and it makes sense. It even makes even more sense now why they're doing the Fernell story in the finale, because it does kind of tie into everything else that it's got going on. We've got more context now.
Yeah.
Fernell makes more sense now than he ever has before. Do you want to know, real quick, my favorite funny moment of tonight's NCIS?
When he said no and walked into the elevator. So good.
That was pretty good, but it wasn't even that. It was Jimmy Palmer just welcoming everyone into the morgue to discuss all their deep, dark secrets.
I understand
I know
this.
you understand this.
As for anyone out there, if you've still made it to this part of the video and you don't know about my past, I'm a former funeral director. So I've spent an awful lot of time in the morgue.
Yeah.
And you spend a lot of time by yourself down there. So, yes, having people come into the morgue and want to have a conversation down there, it is so good because you're down there by yourself a lot.
I feel like, Palmer used to have Ducky down there. They could at least talk or something.
Absolutely.
But, now Ducky is in, like, whatever sort of, like, dark history corner they have him where apparently he doesn't come out all that much.
Yes.
And but we did get to see Ducky tonight, so at least
that was rad.
Kudos to that. All right, anything else you want to talk about with this episode?
No, this was just a really great episode. I was really excited about everything that was happening. This was a really good episode. I don't know what else to say except that.
All right, well,
just
with that
loved it
in mind, let's ask everyone out there, What was your verdict for tonight's NCIS episode? Was it guilty of making you have a good time? Let me know in the comments. I've been saving that one the whole video, and you can also give us a like, subscribe, and if we can pull ourselves together, you can support us by checking out the link to the CarterMatt store in the description. Thank you guys, and we'll see you here next time.